And we are live. Welcome, guys, to a special live version of Conspiranormal. This may be the first time we've actually really done this as the podcast. And what we're doing tonight is we're starting a series with the speakers and presenters from our upcoming Strange Realities conference. And so we're very happy to have the first set of three here for the next 45, 50 minutes. And that's Greg Bishop, who's over there in a weird wrestler mask, which we got somebody else in a weird wrestler mask. Red Pill Junkie. And get to see the mysterious Red Pill Junkie, and David Metcalf, who feels left out right now because he doesn't have a Mexican wrestler mask.
You didn't get
I feel left out.
Yes, indeed. So do I, man. I think we need a Mexican wrestler mask for
we
sure.
can just get corpse paint. I'll do some.
Yeah,
black
yeah.
metal
There you go. You want to look like you want to look like a Swedish death metal band?
Yeah, that's
Scandinavian death metal band.
It's Norwegian black metal, Adam.
Norwegian.
Get it right.
Yeah, thank you. I'm square, guys. What can I say?
Greg, put your face closer so everyone can really see the detail on yours, Greg, because it's like two saucers with beams coming down. It looks like
That's Senior OVNI.
Yes. Senor OVNI was designed and manufactured in an actual professional wrestling mask store in Mexico City.
They make the actual masks for the Mexican wrestlers. I mean, that's their business.
Yes.
So when I was there, I said, "Hey, Miguel, I want to get a nice wrestling mask. Can we go to the wrestling mask store?" Sure. And I said, I kind of stopped for a second. And I said, "Do they do custom work?" And he said, "Well, yes, they do." So for 2 or 3 hours, he sat there and drew. And I said, "Change this, do this. Do you want this? Do you want that?" And he said, "Do you want a Damsky saucers?" And I said, "Damn straight, I want a Damsky saucer." There they are with flames coming out.
Yes.
And the cool thing about it is it looks like Kelly Hopkinsville ears too.
Exactly.
yeah, goblet.
Yeah, Kelly Hopkinsville goblin ears.
What is yours, Red Pill? Did you just make that specifically as
No,
Red Pill Junkie?
alas, no. So the story behind the mask, I don't know if everybody knows it, but when my friends Micah Hanks and Scotty Roberts were planning on launching the Paradigm Symposium
Oh
in
yeah, I remember
Minneapolis,
that.
Minnesota. Yes, it was in 2012. They thought of it as some kind of like end of the world, the biggest party ever, right? In case the world did end in December, which I actually suspect it did, because I will explain everything that happened afterward. But I ended up planning on going to Minneapolis, and I was like, oh, I had this opportunity because nobody knew my face. None of these guys have ever seen me in person or even in Skype. And one of Micah's friends suggested that I came in wearing a luchador mask, and I thought, well, you know what, that's an awesome idea. So what I did is I ended up going to that place that I took Greg this year, looking for a mask that I could wear, and I obviously had to be red, it's Red Pill, and I found this in their catalog. I guess it's the mask of some actual professional wrestler. I don't know his name, but I liked it because of for practical reasons. It's very easy to take on and off, unlike Greg's, who actually has to, you have to tie it with like shoelaces on the back. Like
I feel like the Gimp from.
Yeah, whereas this one has just this very convenient placed Velcro here, and it lets all my face uncovered, which is very comfortable for speaking. The only problem this one has is that I can't use my glasses, maybe when I actually go and design one for myself, I'll actually try to ask
Yeah,
them
I'm
to
sitting
do some
close
kind
so
of
I can
like
see the
something.
screen.
Yeah, something so I can put on the glasses or something.
And I want to say too to the guys that are the people that are watching at home. This is how, especially if you're watching this on the Strange Reality streaming platform, this is how we are actually going to be doing this conference. Right here. So each speaker is going to be speaking, and either they are going to be manipulating their own PowerPoint or we are. But you're going to see them on one side of the screen. You'll see the PowerPoint on the other. For those of you that are listening to the podcast right now, that doesn't make much sense. But the primary reason that we're doing this, well, first of all, I'll get you guys familiar with this platform since we're going to be using it in a few weeks at the Strange Realities Conference on September 25th, 26th, and 27th. I'll do my shameless plug right there. Is that I just want to talk to you guys a little bit about what you're going to be presenting and kind of like a little like sneak preview of what people can expect. And we'll just kind of go from there. So who would want to start first?
Okay, I'll do it. Even though I haven't sent you a subject for the talk yet.
Wow. Wow.
I'm going to wing it right now.
Wow.
Well, the idea I had, which is partially written, I mean, I've
Just
got
give
it.
me some kind of loose title when
Yeah.
you can, Greg, and that's all we really need at the moment.
Help him out, man.
Yeah. I think something like the right brain and oblique science, how ufology can meet the phenomenon on its own terms, maybe a little bit better. And that's kind of what I'm going to talk about. People are obsessed with data. People are obsessed with gathering some kind of photo. David left. I'm boring the crap out of him.
He's texting Louis Elizondo.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, get on there right now. They figure the more pictures and the more data we have, the better handle we get on this. How much more data do we need to get a better handle? So I thought, and my friends, Red Pill Miguel and David, they kind of agree with me. It's like, well, what about the right brain part? What about how it affects people's lives? You cannot put on a chart somebody having their entire life changed in a minute. Some people see a UFO at close, or any of these things at a close range, and their lives are changed forever so basically it's trauma.
Exactly.
So I want to talk about some of those issues.
Okay.
Cool. Sounds interesting. So we got a working title now. That's great.
Yeah. That does sound really interesting. Of course, I would expect nothing less, because you really blaze the field at all this, Greg, for sure. And I'm really happy to have you along for the ride on the Strange Realities Conference, man.
Thank you. Soy Señor OVNI.
Are you going to wear the mask?
I think I will.
Okay. I think it's
I should have
appropriate.
never told anybody I got this. Miguel told me. He said you should have just not said anything, but I couldn't not say anything because it's so beautiful.
So just made a total alternate persona.
Yeah, I mean, this is. He said, "What do you want it to look like?" And I said, the cover of Jung's Flying Saucers, a modern myth of things seen in the skies. There is a dust cover, like maybe a second edition, maybe it is a first edition, but it's just a silhouette of a head against a dark blue background, and the head is black. And in the middle of the head, instead of eyes, there's two yellow ovals. And I said, start with that. And this is what he came up with.
Yeah.
Can you see?
Oh
Yeah, there's like a little mesh right here I can see through pretty well.
Okay. Okay, cool.
Yeah, you kind of look like a bug.
Exactly.
Well, and the rays coming down, it looks like, tattooed prison tears. There's all kinds of weird stuff with the mask. There's all kinds of cultural encoding in here that, that Miguel, I think he thinks about, I think about, and then there's things that he put in there that I'm sure that are just very archetypal that affect people on a different level than just, oh, that's a cool mask. These rays coming down, or instead of just an Adamski saucer, it's got flames coming out of it. I mean, that's great. And to me, that was this is kind of a hybridization. This is like a Anglo / Hispanic mask. There's influences from both sides of the border in this thing, and that's why another reason why I really like it.
Cool.
Yeah, you got to go to Mexico right before COVID hit, right, Greg? You got to pretty much go down there with Miguel right before.
Yeah, I just had to get
Right
out of the
before.
country for a while. Yeah, and so I went down from March 10th to the 17th, and I rented a condo in the middle of Mexico City, and we kind of bachelor padded it for a week. And Miguel drove me everywhere. We went to museums. We went to pyramids. He showed me stuff that you would never see if you were just a tourist or just visiting. And then I got to have dinner with his parents and his family, which is my favorite part of the whole thing. He said, "What do you want my mom to make?" And I said, "Whatever she wants. I'm getting somebody's mother to cook me dinner. What am I going to tell her how to cook something or what I want?" I said, he started listing things, and I said, he got to something I didn't know what it was, and I said, "Tell her to make that," because I'd never heard of it.
What kind of places did you go to, like, that were kind of like that American tourists would never see? Like, where did you take him, Red Pill?
The pyramid, that was really impressive.
We went to Teotihuacan, and I really made the effort to show Greg some of the really interesting parts of that archaeological complex. Besides that touristy place that everybody goes, where everybody tries to climb to the top of the Pyramid of the Sun and take the picture there. Although we actually couldn't go to the top, if I recall, that there was doing some maintenance or something. And one of the places we went in that complex is what Greg is showing in his phone is what it's called the temple of or pyramid of Quetzalcoatl, which I feel to me is the most beautiful part of the whole place, because it's the one that is more untainted, let's say that, because not everybody knows this, but those pyramids, the Pyramid of the Sun, the Pyramid of the Moon, have actually been reconstructed by archaeologists starting from the early 20th century or late 19th century. So it's not a real or at least not an original pyramid per se. You know, there's a lot of reconstruction and probably reinterpretation. We were there at the top of the Pyramid of the Sun, and where you can appreciate what is called Calzada de los Muertos, the Avenue of the Dead, which traverses the Teotihuacan complexes and lands on the Pyramid of the Moon, which is there in the background. What else? We also went to Xochimilco. I don't know if you
pirates.
yeah, Greg got obsessed with the pirates. It's getting bigger and bigger, that story. I think again in the end it's gonna be like, oh my god, and there were like 15 people there were trying to board us.
Only two.
Xochimilco is, for those who don't know, is like the last remnant of the lake that used to like surround the ancient city of Tenochtitlan. Like these guys, because they were nobodies, they were like the latecomers of Mexico. They didn't know where to build their town, and somebody said, "Well, you know, there's that lake there. You know, there's a little island there. If you want it, you know, it's yours." Nobody wants to live there because it's full of snakes and all kind of vermin frogs. And the people who sent them there, they said, "Yeah, those guys, you know, they're gonna die in a year of starvation." And actually, they didn't. They flourished, and they actually expanded the original small island. They started to expand it artificially, creating these what they are called chinampas, which are like floating islands, artificial floating islands made out of reeds and mud, and it's a very complex technique. Actually, I'm sure George Tsoukalos has covered it in one of their ancient episodes. They said, "Yeah, the aliens taught the Mexicans ancient, the botanical techniques
Yeah.
from Alpha Centauri, whatever.
Well,
So
I think the picture that Greg first showed, I think I saw that in some Ancient Aliens book. It might have been Chariots of the Gods was the first time that I actually saw that picture.
Yeah, Teotihuacan. Yeah, everybody goes
Yeah.
to, and so, I mean, Quetzalcoatl, right? I mean, the feather serpent, and there was even this guy, this American guy who wanted to make some kind of correlation between Teotihuacan and the Pleiades and whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, everybody who goes there draws the ancient alien or ancient civilization connection. Oh, that's a photo of what it's called the Island of the Dolls in Xochimilco. This is a place I think that became very famous after film director Tim Burton was taken there, and he kind of like loved it, because it's creepy. It's full of these discarded toys that are hanging on from tree branches and stuff, and nobody actually knows how it started. I guess somebody's kid decided to hang their toy there because they didn't want it, and start from building from there, right? And it became like a thing. And after Tim Burton made it worldwide famous, like everybody wants to go there, and then they charge through the roof to reach there. And we actually didn't go to the original one. That was like a knockoff version, because obviously, right, everybody will try to make a profit from the American tourists and say, yeah, come to this one, come to my Island of the Dolls. It's cheaper.
I think there's a similar something like that in Memphis, I think, where there's a bunch of
I'm sure.
doll parts that are scattered around.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Here's a nice picture of Miguel. I'll stop doing this, but
Oh, that's some no graffiti, anti-graffiti sign, and I guess that's in Coyoacán.
Did you spray paint it?
No, of course not.
okay, we'll stop here in a second. But one thing I made him let me look for was these devotionals called retablos.
Oh, right.
People will commission them when they think that a saint or somebody has interceded on their behalf during some period of strife or trauma. So this was one of them I got.
Yeah, actually, there are retablos of people thanking the Virgin or whatever saint for not being abducted by aliens.
Yeah, that's the one I have. This one is this guy's giving thanks for being saved when a spider woman confronted him and tried to eat his eyeballs, it said.
Well, thank God for that. Thank God
There's
he had some intervention there
Exactly.
when that happened. Yeah. So Red Pill, what is your presentation for our conference going to be about?
Curious.
Ahorita, I'll tell you.
Ahorita, I'll tell you. No, I know. It's going to be about one of those little-known UFO cases. At least it's not that well-known in American ufological circles, but it's more popular in Latin American circles and in Spain. It's very important in Spain because it started there. It became like the biggest thing in Spanish ufology in the 60s and 70s. And I'm talking about the Planet Humo story, which is very complex. Everybody who knows about it might know that it was this hoax of someone who was sending letters to ufologists and investigators telling them that they were being written by actual extraterrestrial beings that had come from this planet orbiting a star that it's 14.6 light years away, and that they had come to Earth in 1950, and they have been here ever since, and that for whatever reason, because it's very strange, their motivation for whatever reason, they decided to start, like pen paling, ufologies and the like, with these very complicated, very strange letters describing their civilization, their science, and that's actually one of the reasons why some people took it seriously. It wasn't like your typical hoax. It wasn't like channel material when you contact the Ashtar command or whatever, and instead of like explaining the actual fabric of the universe, or how flying saucers work, what's their source of energy, they only use like the typical new agey love and light platitudes. Well, you're like, love is universal language, whatever. No, here these letters actually went into the nitty gritty of flying saucer technology, the nature of time, the nature of space, their culture, their language, which is very rare because it's composed of these long vowels like we, and these letters were shown to linguists, and they were shown to physicists, and some of them said, well, if this is a hoax, it's brilliant. So in the end, someone, not to give the whole presentation, but in the end, someone did come up and said, yeah, I made it all up. It was a hoax. And the skeptics say, case closed, and they closed that chapter on Planet Umo. But I wanted to talk about why it fascinates me so much to this day, and why it may not be as easy as, just this guy trying to make fun of ufologists and trying to, pull like a prank on them just to, look smart in the end. I think it's more complicated.
Showed up on Voronezh, right?
There is that, and there is also, to me, there's like a certain correlation between this case and someone like Richard Doty, right? And the whole thing about Dulce and the MJ12 papers. To this day, nobody really knows who forged the MJ12 papers, right? Everybody like points the finger to Doty. But some people say, well, if it was Doty, he needed to have help. And if it was Doty, he had to have some motivation behind, just instead of just like making fun of ufologists. So I want to talk about that, and I want to talk about recent developments concerning what seemed to be like a close case or a cold case in ufology, because apparently some people to this day are still claiming to be in contact with beings from planet Umo, if you can believe it.
Right. Yeah, I actually have heard this story, but you're right. It is one that is not talked about very much in the I guess English speaking world.
Exactly.
It started in, was it Spain?
It started in Spain in 1965.
Okay.
And it's also, it's important, to me, to try to remember what kind of country, what kind of place Spain was in 1965. We have to remember Spain had come out from a very traumatic historical event, which was the Civil War that ended in 1939, I want to say, starting in 1936.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. But back in those days, they were under a fascist dictatorship. There's no other ways to describe the rule of Franco. So in this scenario is when people start to receive these communications. People who were already interested in UFOs, people who already started having these salons in this very popular place called Café León, which is in Madrid, the capital of Spain. And there's this basement that was called, had the nickname of La Ballena Alegre, the happy whale, because there has this mural of or like a whale there, and there's also sort of people who used to go there, poets, bohemians, intellectuals, even fascists. That is where the founders of the Falangist Spanish party had their meetings before the start of the Civil War. And maybe there's some kind of weird right-wing connection, I feel, with the whole thing of Planet Humo to this day, which is strange. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that, just to keep people interested about this, to me, fascinating aspect of ufology as folklore, or as as a mythology.
Yeah, I've been noticing that kind of weird fascist connection to a lot of the UFOs, and especially some of the contactee stuff. Greg, I know you could probably speak to some of that, but like, the connections like Mount Shasta and Guy Ballard and William Dudley Pelley and all that, and even Adamski himself. What was that?
I said Dave could too, actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
Talk about that right-wing connection and how that's been there in the UFO world since almost the beginning, since before the beginning. A lot of urban Western occultism has been based around a very egotistical, almost selfish right-wingy kind of thing, where you just your happiness is the most important thing, and everything that follows from that is not, that isn't conducive to any kind of compassion for anybody.
Or
So
some kind of elect group or something also.
Yeah, I think with the Pelly stuff, though, the silver shirts actually were like they were straight up fascist.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, that wasn't even that's not even a philosophical kind of like
Right.
Like once again, I was trying to be nice. Go ahead.
let's get right down to it. They were fascists. Yeah. They had some pretty funky fascist stuff. Oh, and I think too, one of the things like with Adamski and that, a lot of these groups towards the 60s, or maybe even in the late 50s, and that had the connections to going down to South America, so you start to run into some of the actual Nazis that were over in South America post World War II and that. So there's an interesting kind of deep history there, Yeah,
no, I guess maybe it's some kind of like inevitable slippery slope that people find when they're started to, explore this rabbit hole of ufology.
I think too, like with like the way Vallée looks at Humo in Revelations, and that these organizations and these groups provide a convenient cover sometimes. I think Lavenda goes into that with the Gnostic bishops, but also just in terms of the actual kind of parachurch groups, and that they can religious organizations have an easier way of kind of filtering into different societies, and they can kind of act as and act as a kind of a carrier vessel for other ideologies, and that, especially if you've got people that are traveling. That was something I noticed. This isn't about fascism, but just about this idea of an overall kind of communication through this stuff. When I was looking at Ray Palmer's Flying Saucer magazine, the stuff from the 50s is amazing, because if you look at it in the context of the Cold War, Flying Saucer magazine was acting as kind of open source intel from around the world for all these people being like, hey, I saw this in the sky. So if you know what was flying up in the sky, or what may have been up in the sky, whether it was a Russian satellite or a European test, or whatever, U.S. missile test or something, you would know, oh, hey, well, this person is, they're writing in from this area. This is probably what that was. And Palmer was aware of it, because you start, as you read these magazines, he's, he's almost like poking the bear with this kind of stuff, where he's like, well, we got these reports from South America about these things that look like missiles being launched at this time. And then a couple issues later, he's like, oh, well, by the way, we found out that this was a satellite launch, or this was a missile test. So it's really interesting. These things they're weird, so people don't look at them, you know.
Yes.
So it provides a convenient place to sort of sneak in other messages and that, you know.
And even with the Umo story, there are these claims, right? Yeah, you can find the symbol anywhere. There are these claims that one of the reasons why these letters were sent to people, not just in Spain, but also in France and other countries, is that they were used for espionage purposes. Because, like David says, it's something that will pass through the filter of censorship, and they will be able to reach people behind the Iron Curtain.
Yeah, and if you think about cryptography and stuff, if you're sending a letter, in terms of cryptography, it wouldn't have to have what you're encrypting into that letter may not have to have anything to do with what the topic of the letter is. You can encrypt the message in your punctuation. You can encrypt it in damage to certain letters, you know.
Well, here they were using an entirely fictitious, allegedly fictitious language, you know, with their own different words. And what's interesting about Umo is that it's very easy to remember. Oh yeah, that's the word for house, or that's the word for flying saucer, and that's the word for man, and that's the word for whatever. So I don't know, you know.
Yeah,
like I said, I'm obsessed with it.
Yeah, well, you should be. You know, there's two things. What David was saying, this actually, you know, of course it goes on. I actually wrote about it in Project Beta. Bill Moore would get postcards from Russia. And what they were apparently from was from, you know, I am Russian UFO researcher. I'd like to know something about research. And what would be in the messages was what Bill had to do was go to a phone, call a number at a certain time, and read the message verbatim off the card. No, all punctuation, everything. And somebody would just say thank you and hang up. And then he'd have to go to a post office that was
so weird. That's so weird.
Take that postcard, put it in an envelope, and send it on to another address, just some innocuous address that was like a house address. But it was being forwarded on to somebody that collected all the messages up that were coming in. And what they were was not, you know, Russian UFO researchers. It was people in the country telling them how they were making the missiles and where factories were located, how many cars were coming out of there or whatever. Those were all encoded in the I would like to know more about UFOs. And then the reason he forwarded them is probably there's like microdots and stuff like that with more information. Who knows? So what a microdot is basically like the period at the end of a sentence. And if you put it under a microscope, it's an entire message.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of like similar to barcode, I guess. Would be a later development of it. Yeah.
It's just really, really tiny writing.
Yeah, and the contemporary version of it now is you can encode in images. You can encode messages in the JPEG. So the JPEG has certain, you know, irregularities that if you have the right app or not, whatever, you know, the right algorithm to decode those, encryption thing, you can pull it down. Yeah,
in the Umo letters, they were
like, you know,
always
the JPEGs like
stamped. Sorry, the Umo letters were stamped with something that was that had the symbol, right? And they were using something like what do you call this? Something that you will put on your thumb, and then you will rubber stamp it. And the guy who ended up confessing the hoax said that had tiny coding into the seals that only spies with very sophisticated equipment could decipher. Again, who knows? This guy was something of a pathological liar, and even something of a. And I will talk about it. He was something of a sex deviant or even a sex offender. You know, there's a lot
doesn't follow around ufology.
There's a lot of nasty sex stuff in this case. Even, and I'm sorry to say, even child molestation involving some of the branches of almost case.
Well, I don't want to give too much away because we want to save that for all that good stuff for the conference. But David, let's get to you, man. What are you going to talk about?
I am going to try to open up the realms of magic that are available at gas stations and grocery stores, with such beautiful objects as the gas station dream books, which are encoded, speaking of codes, encoded ways to win the lottery through dream interpretation.
Nice.
Yeah, so these are lists of things that might appear in your dreams. I think these are names. And these have been around for over 100 years. They used to be associated with a game called Policy. It was an early form of lottery that was run a little bit different than the lottery in inner cities and that. But they've now kind of tied into state lotteries and that. And they provided an interesting kind of window to the world of hoodoo and conjure, which, folks kind of think of as exotic. But I picked these up at a local gas station, and I can get them at quite a few local gas stations in the area where I'm at near Athens. So, and I'm also going to kind of tie that into books you can pick up at the grocery, such as Strategy of Satan, which is a book on exorcism, so another kind of exotic form of magic practice that people look at as sort of out there and fringe, most of the time focused on Catholic practice, but which you can go to any Walmart or grocery store a lot of times and pick up in their inspirational sections, that kind of, these basically exorcism manuals. Another one, this one was available at Walmart for a long time, The Day Satan. Yeah,
Hey, all right.
this one is
Satan, are you there?
it's a true encounter with demon possession and exorcism. This one is fantastically lurid, completely just pulp, like, it's essentially a horror novel masked in the form of a true confession by a pastor. And this was in the nonfiction, the book was in the nonfiction section. The pastor claims that at a certain point his radio ministry started receiving phone calls from a possessed woman, and the story rips through there. But this was actually on the I picked this one up at Walmart, right? So these are things that are available just anywhere that sort of open up this whole different picture of the everyday world. And then my personal favorite, the Old Farmer's Almanac.
Oh yeah,
which is a beautiful invitation to, let's get to the good stuff. It's got these fantastic, and obviously on the PowerPoint we'll actually be able to see things, but fantastic, like the conjunctions. You want to do a spell on a certain time when the moon and certain planets are aligned. Old Farmer's Almanac has you covered. They also have instructions for how to plant by the moon, the lunar cycles. Well, if you want to plant a spell, right? Spells grow. Just look at the lunar cycles. And this is one of my favorites, is the Man of Signs, right? So this is, if you want to heal parts of your body, it has the zodiac signs that are associated. You can just flip back to that other page and see when those zodiac signs are in the right alignment to fix those parts of your body. And so one of the things I'll be discussing is this is, again, grocery store, Old Farmer's Almanac or CVS pharmacy, that kind of thing. But being able to tie that into some Qigong practices and some practices that are associated with Hermetic magic and that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you were calling them gas station grimoires, which I thought was like a really cool phrase.
Yeah, this would be an example of the the grocery store grimoire kind of thing, because you can pick this one again was at Walmart, and I'm a lot of times, because I live in Georgia, people will ask me, well, is that because you're in the South? And when I was up in Chicago, I was getting these books as well. This research started up in Chicago. It fully kicked in when I noticed that the Philip K. Dick exegesis was sold on the Walmart website, which they sell. They sell everything. Diana Pasulka's book is up on Walmart. You can buy it from Walmart. But you know, I went on a quest, and I was like, I wonder if they physically have this thing in their book section, because I would love to pick up Philip K. Dick's Exegesis from Walmart. Like, that would be the most dystopian purchase, you know. And they didn't, but they had you know, more books on exorcism than that. And I was like, well, you know, it's just as good.
I was actually in a grocery store one time, and it was in Georgia. I mean, it was around the Atlanta area, so not as quite far out from a major city as like you, but they did on one of like the end racks of the checkout, you know, station.
Yeah.
Just like at the bottom of the rack, there was the guide, like the rules or whatever, the beliefs of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. And I was like, what?
Yeah. Like, well, and that's the Hobby Lobby is another one. They don't, Hobby Lobby would never have that. That's a pretty amazing find. That must have been like a warehouse mix up or something. They were like, let's test what we can sell. And that's, you know, I've done some academic research on why exactly Walmart is selling exorcism books. And the kind of mundane answer is because it makes money. They sell, right? Mm-hmm. So, which is interesting in and of itself, because there's a market then for people to buy books on how to, you know, practice exorcism, which is fantastic. That it was enough of a market to trigger a corporation to be like, yeah, we need to stock those across the country. Mm-hmm. You know? So, but yeah, I mean, that Hobby Lobby is another major reseller of these things. Hobby Lobby has a fantastic selection of grocery store grimoires, which I guess that would be a hobby store grimoire, but you know,
doesn't alliterate as well.
Yeah, it doesn't. No, it's not as pithy, you know. So that, but you know, and Hobby Lobby is interesting too, along the same sort of lines. In, you know, we're talking about earlier groups that allow, you know, for kind of a secret undercurrent to float through them. I've been looking at Hobby Lobby like an insurgent organization because of their, you know, political platform, the fact that they were bringing over stolen antiquities from you know, I mean, they're like
that's crazy.
Yeah, you know, and so there's these secret avenues in our everyday lives. So my presentation will be on, you know, just a couple different ways to access those.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Nice. I know you've talked about how, like, in addition, like how the Farmer's Almanac can be used for magical workings. You've also talked about a lot of that evangelical stuff. Like it has the names of demons, and it has techniques where you could like potentially reverse engineer those books and summon demons. Yeah,
which was pointed out by one of the guys who writes grocery store grimoires, this guy Derek Prince. Obviously he doesn't call them that, but you know, Derek Prince is a neo-charismatic, he's passed away now, but he was a really popular, you can still hear him on a lot of Christian radio stations. There's a Derek Prince like hour that they play, and in one of his books he talks about pastors back engineering the exorcisms so that they could, you know, conjure a demon, or they would get somebody who was possessed, you know, or allegedly possessed, and they would then work with that spirit in order to gain power and to gain knowledge and that kind of thing. Which was fun. It was a question that I had, because I was seeing these things, and they're grimoires. I mean, they have lists of demon names, you know, and it's just, you can easily see that anyone who knows anything about conjuration could use these things to conjure whatever is mentioned in this thing. But I was wondering, you know, does this ever happen in the church as well? You know, I mean, you get, like, obviously there's all sorts of deviation and nasty stuff that goes on in congregations. So it made sense that would be possible. And sure enough, Derek Prince, writing, I think in the 80s, 70s, you know, mentions that this was occurring. So I'm sure somewhere in some church in your suburbs or your you know, your rural areas, there's a pastor who's got one of these books and sitting there working with you know, things that maybe they shouldn't be.
Cool. What's the working title you got for it?
I don't remember. Do you guys have that called up? I sent that to you.
Yeah, I think we have it somewhere.
I could find it. I could find it real quick.
Yeah, words I write disappear quickly in the brain. So
Cool.
Gas station and grocery stores.
Mm.
You guys are the organizers. You're supposed to know what I told you. You're asking me what I'm presenting. Come on.
Oh, it's getting close.
I went,
You probably got.
remembered there was something about the right winginess of those groups of early contactees. A lot of them talked about planets with perfect societies and people that all
Okay.
get
Yes.
along, and free love and all that. That does not allow for anybody any real individuality. In fact, it kind of, and so that's why one the government was scared of them because that's communism.
Mhm.
But it's also the feature of a kind of a right-wing fascist society too. Anything that goes too far to the left or the right becomes that way, and so
Right.
I think that's their idea was that we've had so many problems being so individualistic and having so many different countries, and now we got the bomb, and they were so scared of the atomic bomb, so they just said, well, space people don't live like that; they're all the same.
Right.
They don't. Buck Nelson actually wrote that he was pleased to see. He was a kind of a backcountry contactee from Kentucky or something like that. Anyway, he was from the Appalachians, and he was pleased to see that there was racial separation on the other planets. He said, otherwise, they realized a long time ago they couldn't get along if all the races lived together. So they had
Well, at least he had his dog Bucky, right?
yes,
With him.
Yeah.
Yep.
David's title for his talk is Hidden Pathways of Magic, Supernatural Living in the American Marketplace.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah.
To go back to some of that weird fascist UFO connection stuff. Also, there's a tradition of getting legitimacy through some kind of cosmic connection in the history of secret societies, and
Mm.
there's all this conspiracy theory around the Nazis and other fascists, getting channeling some kind of forces and maybe some kind of alien race that had those fascist characteristics that they were trying to duplicate. So there's also that gaining legitimacy through, we are the ones with the contact,
Right.
who've contacted these people. They've selected us
Right.
to be the leaders of Earth and that kind of thing.
Right. Yeah, we're the special ones because we're the ones who are in contact with these superior beings. Therefore, our ideology is the right one.
So
Yeah, and
weird murky subject.
yeah, although it's interesting because UMO, like David said, in the United States, the FBI was keeping tabs on the contactees because some citizens were concerned that they were disseminating communist propaganda, whereas the UMO stuff is not really communist. It's actually something a bit weirder. It's almost like capitalist technocracy. These guys, they say, okay, yeah, we don't use money, but your wealth depends on how smart you are and how well you perform in your work. So they have these kind of like weird formulas that will try to come up with how much money will you make based on that. Also tallied by computers, because everything in their society was ruled by computers. They were these kind of like, part of them was kind of like nature-loving hippies, and part of them was like, yeah, everything is ruled by computers. Even our marriages have to be determined by the computers to see if the groom and the bride are the right genetic match.
yeah. It sounds like what was I going to say? Oh, it sounds like the planet Umo in the galaxy Ayn Rand.
Yeah, and I was thinking, well, how horrible living in a place like that. And say, well, Google almost sounds like a word from the planet Umo.
Yeah.
We're getting there.
On the pathway to Umo.
Exactly.
Yeah. Why don't you Umo that? Then you can find out what's going on.
Yeah, see if there's Google in the Umo vocabulary.
It sounds like one of those startup companies. It's got that ring to it. Some kind of app.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, the new flying rideshare app, Umo, everywhere by saucer.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much, guys. This has been very, very excellent. I really appreciate you guys coming on and doing this. Tell everybody real quick where they can find you all. We'll start with you, Greg, I guess. You're the closest there to me, so.
Probably the easiest way is to go to radiomisterioso.com. And yes, I will be doing some shows.
Oh, that's what I was about to ask.
I got 4 shows. I got 4 shows in the tank right now.
Huevón.
Yeah, I know. Why don't you come live here and see how much of a huevón I am? So yeah, that's the easiest way. Or there's a Facebook group for Radio Misterioso too, with a lot of discussion. So next,
Red Pill.
Yeah, well, you can find my articles in the website, The Daily Grail, www.dailygrail.com. I also have my own website, absurdbydesign.com. I don't post articles there. It's more like a gallery of my artistic work, commissions and cover designs and the like, and also where I put links to things like this, the interviews that I've been invited to.
is our
Right, that's the one that started it all.
That's his first art. That's his first cover, which was like hit it out of the park. Bases loaded, grand slam piece of graphics.
Right, and yeah, that's pretty much it for the moment.
Cool.
Okay.
Dave?
davidmetcalf.wordpress.com is my blog that has a bunch of stuff up on it. And then Twitter, David B. Metcalf, and Facebook. I think would be the places where folks can find me wandering around.
Cool. And of course, they can catch all of you at the Strange Realities Conference, September 25th, 26th, and 27th.
Seraphiel, I'm disappointed that you did not have the vocal modulation and suddenly just jump in with the wrestler.
Yeah. We hope it sounded like a monster truck rally.
I'm still joyful over the fact that it sounded like a monster truck rally kind of thing. And I'm disappointed that I don't think we're going to have Truckzilla or any kind of
maybe we should
going to surprise us.
We should have Bigfoot. Isn't one called Bigfoot?
Yeah, there's Bigfoot. Yeah, man, that would be great. I just hope that suddenly one of us gets cut out and there's just trucks coming.
Okay.
I hope
maybe for 2021. We've got a couple of surprises lined up though.
Sweet. Cool. Tim's got a surprise coming up next.
Yeah,
that's what he said. Benal.
Yeah. I wonder what that's going to be. He's always got something. He's always got something up his sleeve, though.
He does.
He's all sleeves.
All right, excellent, guys. Thank you so much, and guys, we will be right back on this stream to bring in Tim Benal, John Tenney, and Aaron Goulias. So we'll see you in a bit.